And here we go.
We're living on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm FTFE, welcome back to the channel. It does to stupidity what having the second shot of the Pfizer vaccine has done to my fucking head. I feel like shit. But I'm fully vaccinated, so that's one more bubble of protection for the immunocompromised. If you are offered the vaccine, please do your part and go and get it. We are going to have a Flat Earth debate from Monday night, as always. Tonight we are having Mr. Sensible talk to breaking down the wall of lies about Mr. Sensible's MAGE II project. If you guys haven't seen Mr. Sensible's MAGE II project, he will describe it for you shortly, but briefly, it is a weather balloon with 3 attached cameras that he sent to the edge of space to try and see the Earth's curvature, and he will tell you how that went. Just a quick note before we do get started today, guys. YouTube has been broken this month thanks to the tax system from America, and haven't paid me yet and took a lot of my wage away. So if you would like to super chat tonight, I would very much appreciate if you would do it via PayPal rather than YouTube. 2 benefits for that: I'll get it right now, which will help me until my pay comes in, and also I'll get it all instead of YouTube getting 30% of it. If you're not able to, that's cool. And obviously super chats and donations are not, asked for. They are just, if you want to do it, then I really do appreciate it, but they are never needed. All the content I put on YouTube is for free, but I do appreciate everything that you guys do to help support me. Anyway, let's get on with the show. We have with us the amazing Mr. Sensible. Mr. Sensible, how are you doing?
I'm super fine, thanks, Craig. And thanks for the very kind introduction. Really appreciate you asking me here tonight, and it's going to be good to have a chat with this guy, Break, who I've not come across before, other than seeing him on your stream a few days ago.
Well, Break and I have had a few interesting streams. Some of them in dumpster fires, but the one we had the other week, I actually quite enjoyed the conversation. It can get a little heated, but it still was a good conversation. Talking about Break, here is Breaking Down the Wall of Lies. Thank you for joining us again. How are you doing?
Yeah, how you doing, Craig? Glad to be here. Looking forward to having a chat with Mr. Sensible over some of the things he believes about this flying spinning ball. Yeah, glad to be here.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate you taking the time. Not as late as last week, so hopefully we're both a bit more awake. So let's just get on with it. What we're going to do is we're going to let Mr. Sensible take the reign, and he's going to talk us through his MAGE project, explain it to Break. Then they're going to have just a back and forth conversation about that. Then Break also has some questions for Mr. Sensible. So let's just get on with it. Mr. Sensible, over to you.
Right. Well, I'll just have a little muck around with the camera there. Yeah, MAGE, Mission Above Globe Earth. As we know, whenever we've seen high altitude balloons with cameras on, everyone complains about the fact it's wide-angle lens. And the reason they're wide-angle lenses is that they want to get a great big view. Understood. So I'm getting some feedback here, I think.
Oh, that's just Zoom. It does that every now and then.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's cool. That's cool then. Yeah, so I decided that I'll try and answer this question for once and for all. So I thought I'm going to send up a high-altitude balloon with a camera that is not a wide-angle lens. And what's more, because there'll still be questions about any distortion, I was going to do it with some reference frame strings, which we'll see in a minute. So it's mission above globe Earth. This was actually the second attempt. The first attempt only got to about 5.25 kilometers because of a balloon manufacturing fault. But number 2 was a good one. So let me show you. I've got myself some little notes here. So MAGE II was the 17th of October. We had a target height of 39 kilometers and reached 38 3/4, which was stunning, absolutely stunning. From launch to burst, it was 2 hours, 26 minutes. We often get questions about the cameras. So we got 3 cameras. We had an upward-facing balloon camera because I wanted to see what happened with the balloon, which is a GoPro Hero 3 Plus. That is a wide-angle lens because it didn't matter either way. Had a rear-facing camera, which is a GoPro Hero 4, which is also a wide camera, because I also wanted to get a good view. Hey, chance for some beautiful footage. But the experimental camera, this is the important one, the MAGE narrow angle camera. It is not fisheye. It is not wide angle. Unfortunately, it's not rectilinear, but it is a non-distorting lens as far as it can be. And that's a Firefly 8 SE 90-degree camera. You can check out the specs of these. And we had an atmospheric pressure sensor and a temperature sensor. It was tracked with GPS trackers, and we put some payload in it. A baby bell cheddar for me, and 10 grams of Go Cat biscuits for Mr. Arnold. That's another story. So let's have a quick look around MAGE. I think I should be able to capture the sound. So that is MAGE in front of you. Sponsored by Bob the Science Guy, Arctic Haze, and Just Shoot Me. They all, lots of people supported me, but those guys went out their way to give me some financial support for this, for which I was truly grateful. You can see on the left-hand side, these 2 strings, they are the reference frame strings. These are not graphics. Then it's nothing on the lens. These are strings that are in front of the camera. Camera sort of sits under there. I think this will swing around in a second. That white thing's the temperature sender. Other gubbins will go inside. Let's just let it have a little walk around it. Inside MAGE, I've already told you, cat biscuits and cheese. Don't need to know any more about that. So let's move on. Prior to the launch of MAGE, I had been sent this graphic, which is stuck behind my beautiful visage. This was produced by an engineer in Chile called Andre Puelma. He knew that the target height I was going for was 39 kilometers. This graphic, this curved line, I know I'm in front of it, but this curved line is the calculated curve that you should expect to see at 39 kilometers. So it'll be interesting to see how we get on. So moving on, this is the launch. I do like this. I just let the launch run. So you can see there the 2 reference line strings, the lighter colored one to show up against the dark of the sky at height, the darker one to hopefully show up against the light clouds. You saw my face as I launched it because part of this is I did not want to be accused of any cheating. So I filmed it showing me launching, and I've got the entire footage, which is also available uncut on a separate video from launch to landing, where you actually see me approach and pick the MAGE probe up. But here you go. So that's the view from MAGE, the two strings. Down in the bottom left, you've got a temperature graph, and next to it, you've got an air pressure graph. We'll look at that a bit more closely in a minute. Top left, you've got a balloon camera facing up. You can't see the balloon so well against the clouds. It shows up better later. And that's the nice view wide angle camera. So after this, what we've got, well, actually, I think the next thing is all right. This is when we're at 38 kilometers. So a big jump up. So now you can see the balloon camera. You can see that balloon, how big it is there. You can clearly see the light and the dark lines. So they did their job properly. And we can see that the atmospheric pressure is actually, the decimal point's in the wrong place, but that's 0.3% of atmospheric pressure, only 262 pascals, which is less than 2 torr. Down at ground level, you can expect 760 torr. So that atmosphere, 99.7% of it is below MAGE. And that's just for interest, that's 0.04 pounds per square inch. It's all but vacuum. So if I jump on again, because I've got all these presets, this is that, excuse me, this is that atmospheric pressure graph. So we started at 100,000 pascals, and as we go up, the pressure drops in a nice gentle curve until at this point when we're nearly at the peak height. When the balloon bursts and we fall back down, the pressure rises very quickly. So you can see that we've got a difference. MAGE has traveled from an area with 100,000 pascals of pressure to 260 odd with no container in between. Now, I'm not commenting with regard to you, Break, about that, because I have no idea on your views on containers and that, but that's a general sort of flat earth comment. So let's have a look at this thing of beauty. This was just at the peak, just before MAGE burst, because, as I said, you'll see a thing of beauty.
It's one of my favorite sites on YouTube.
It's stunning, isn't it?
Yeah. When you slow it down, you can see the powder on the outside still left in place.
So I'll change the camera view to the balloon camera now.
Wow.
So that's full speed.
And obviously this one is
Speed.
fisheye, isn't it?
Sorry?
This one is fisheye, isn't it?
This one is a wide angle lens, yes.
Yeah.
So that's why you can see the horizon bending and flexing, which is why it's useless for any observation. It's great just to look at stuff.
Yeah, getting a pretty view.
That balloon is shredding at the speed of sound. That puff is the powder that's on the inside of the balloon to stop it sticking during manufacture and storage. I think we show it once more, a little slower.
I could watch this all day. Just look at that. Oh,
We're
it's
very
amazing.
lucky to get, sometimes they just tear in half or whatever to get this shredding. It does happen, but it's.
I wonder
this
how
one's
much it would
perfect.
cost to get a slow motion camera up there.
I know. That would be nice to see, wouldn't it?
A Maverick 3000 or something.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to the next step, which is the balloon itself. So here's screenshots of the balloon camera, from the balloon camera of the balloon at various heights. The first one was just above cloud, so you could actually see it. I think that was a couple of kilometers up. I can't remember. It might have been at 15, 25 and 38 kilometers. Obviously, that balloon is getting bigger. It's expanding. There's no more gas in it than there was right at the start. The reason it's expanding is because the atmospheric pressure around it is lower, so it's not able to press against the balloon so strongly. So the pressure inside pushes the balloon out until you reach the point where it shreds. So that, again, is another proof alongside the sensor readings. That's another proof, video evidence of the lower pressure as you go higher. Right, this is the money shot. This was about the best shot I could get. It's actually not at peak height. It's at just over 35 kilometers up, getting the horizon line in between the two reference line strings, because across the middle or in fact, any line that goes straight through the middle is the one with the least chance of any distortion. Okay. Now, to my eyes, and to many people's eyes, you can see curvature. Now, what you can do is compress the image side by side and stick a straight line against it. Now you can really see that curve. Now, I've not edited it, I've just squished it left to right, so that accentuates the curve that's there, just to make it easy to see. And if we go back to that grid, overlaying it on that same image, that was the predicted curve from Andrei Palmer against the actual. But this is 4 kilometers lower than his curve was predicted for. So it's not 100% match, but it's damn close, and you can certainly see that there is curvature, which is what we sent MAGE up there for. And I think, what was this bit? Oh, that's for something else. That's for me to use the background. So yeah, that was basically the money shot. And that is MAGE. That's why it went up there. So you can see on my channel, as well as videos talking about MAGE, planning MAGE and so on, MAGE I, which was fun but unsuccessful, you can see this full experimental video, which explains everything that's happening. It shows shots from various heights. I also have a full uncut version of the wide angle camera view from launch to landing for those who just want to see it, and I've got the narrow angle lens version as well, uncut from launch to landing, so that nobody can accuse me of any editing. And I've also made available all the data. I've sent it to several people, all the telemetry data, which shows heights, pressures and so on, if anyone wants to do any calculations or comparisons against video. And that, my friends, is MAGE.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Sensible.
Very welcome.
Mr. Sensible's link is his channel's link is in the description. If you want to go and check out any of the videos regarding MAGE or any of the other excellent content that he produces, please go over there. Just make sure you bring some kind of eye shields, because the bald head can get you sometimes. It's a bit shiny every now and then. But Break, what do you think of that?
I think it's commendable that someone's went to the time and the effort to put something like that up and gather some interesting facts there. The footage looked good. You could obviously see the fisheye lens. It was convex, and then it was concave.
Are you talking about when I was showing the balloon bursting?
I think some of the footage there, it was obviously when it looked like the Earth was a whole hemisphere around a certain area. It was like the fisheye lens was quite evident. But the footage that you're on about with the 2 lines,
yes, just to be clear, Brian. Anyone who's going to comment at all about how much curve they can or can't see has to use the footage that's got the 2 lines in. Both the others are wide. Thank you.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So if the Earth were a bowl, I'm going to draw the 2 lines that you showed, and this is what you showed. That's basically it there, isn't it?
That sort of thing, yes.
Yeah. So I've seen this done before with camera compression. It's like people have took like a straight line, and then they've looked away. They've took a picture of the horizon, and they've compressed it, and they've said, look, there's the curvature. But at the end of the day, we're talking about curvature that goes, as you look at the horizon, that curvature should go down, sloping away. So
it was curved down on each side.
Yeah, well, in actual fact, it looked like there's a hump in the middle. So why is the hump in the middle? Because there shouldn't be any hump in the middle. If it's a perfect symmetrical bowl, then there should be no hump in the middle. It should be levelly going away. You know what I mean? Whereas it's like on a flat. The point I'm trying to make is this is something that I've seen globers use before. It's like they take the straight line, they've took a spirit level, then they've took a picture of the horizon, and it's like they've got this little compressed hump in the middle. But when flat earthers talk about that there's no proof of curvature, we're talking about as it goes away, there should be drop. Which, why we got this hump in the middle, I don't get that. That's showing nothing.
Well, if you assume for a second, just for a second,
Yeah.
that the Earth was a ball, okay,
Yeah,
and you were 500,000 miles away,
yeah,
it would look like a total circle, wouldn't it? If it was a sphere.
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Now, if you were half that distance away, it's going to look like a bigger sphere. You get closer and closer, you're going to reach the point where you can only see part of the curve. And yeah, whichever plonk yourself in a boat on the ocean. Let's say you look out and you can see 5 miles, or whatever it is. You can see 5 miles. If you turn to the right, you can see 5 miles. If you turn to the left, you can see 5 miles. It's going to be the same everywhere. So any curvature is going to look. It's going to be directly where you're looking.
I get what you're saying. I would need to look at again, because I think you made the point. I took a still shot of the lenses that you use, the type of cameras, and I think what you said is it wasn't a perfect rectilinear lens, the one that you got the picture from, but it was as close as you could get it. Correct?
That's right. I can explain more about that though, and how I've allowed for it. You have to let me just find in the video, because the issue is. Let me just minimize me. The issue is with lenses is if you get this distortion on the left, barrel distortion. So if you had some lines coming across your field of view, any lines towards the top would bow that way. Any lines at the bottom would bow the other way. Any lines across the middle would be straight. Therefore, for MAGE, the horizon lines you want to test, are ones that are across the middle. Now, let's say that the Earth was flat, then if we looked at, because the camera's swinging around all the time, if we looked at a shot where the horizon line was somewhere near the top, even with a flat Earth, it's going to look curved, okay? And with a curved Earth, it's going to look more curved than it really is. So that's not a fair test. If it's towards the bottom, your flat Earth would look convex. Your curved Earth may still look humped. It may look straight. It will certainly look flatter than it really is. So the only place to test is across the middle, which is why I'm going to have to find it again now, which is why we went for a shot where the horizon line was roughly across the middle. That was the whole point. So I'm just going to try and find that shot again. Yes. So here's an example. This is a horizon. It's very low, so it's not going to look. You can't test it. It's very fuzzy. But you've got the 2 reference line strings. If you draw, it's going to do it in just a second. If you draw straight lines at random across it, come on, and then compress it. Come on, where are they? Like that. So you draw some lines across it, random lines. If you then compress the image, those straight lines will remain straight. The angle will change, but they'll remain straight. Curved lines will look more curved. Now, you see that bottom line there?
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
So now that is actually a dead straight string. It's spring-loaded. It is definitely straight, but it looks curved because even with a non-distorting lens, there's distortion, that barrel distortion, only a little bit, which is why we can only look at horizon lines across the middle, which is where that money shot is. It's as close to the middle as we could get. In the actual experimental video, I actually do this test in 3 positions. I do it up here across the top. It looks curved, but then any distortion would be helping it look more curved. So it didn't count. It was just a let's see. And then we did another one at the bottom. It still was curved that same direction. If it was a flat Earth, it would either look flat or it would have been bowed down slightly by the distortion, but it wasn't. It was still curved. Basically, I know that people talk about things like sunrises and sunsets, or calculate orbits, and all these things that are evidence for Earth, or tote that the curve in the surface of water in tow tanks, and all these things. This is a freaking video. It's photographic evidence of the curve that, with a bit of time, a little bit of money, maybe some help, anyone could do. You could do this and go and send a camera up and check if you wanted to. Anyone could do this, because I am just anyone. I'm not some whiz-bang scientist. I've not got oodles of money to waste. So this was an everyman experiment. I had some wonderful help by a guy known as Q. He's anonymous, who is a high altitude balloonist. So he was able to give me technical support, loan me equipment, which obviously saved me money as well. And it was a wonderful day, a wonderful project, and yeah, really enjoyed it. And I think it smashed the Earth. And in fact, I think 8 flat earthers so far, although one of them is Flatzoid FE, and he's tried 3 times. 8 flat earthers have tried to debunk this, and Ranty Flat Earth, bless him, debunked the balloon camera, which is a wide angle lens. That didn't count. Yeah, none of them managed to argue.
Ranty's in the chat.
To argue a case that destroyed this as evidence.
I think, as I said, that you've done a great job of putting that high altitude balloon or probe, whatever you want to call it, up there. You've done obviously some tests on different things, atmospheric pressures, etc., to show gradients and different things.
What do you think about that? I don't know what your general views are about pressure gradient.
I mean, I know people argue. What I'd like to just say is, regards that though, I've watched a hell of a lot of high altitude balloon footage from all over the world in all different areas, and I've watched consistently all the live ISS footage. I've watched as many high altitude things as I could watch. Some are just ridiculous. It shows clearly the fisheye lens. I get what you're saying about that showing curvature. I'd be a fool to argue against what you're saying right now without looking at the full video, so I'm not going to. I haven't seen the full video. I'd like to watch the full video, the uncut version, which you said is available.
Can I just cut in for a second?
Because the uncut version, really, it's just so that you can just watch it and enjoy the view and so on. But to actually get the details of MAGE, you want to watch some MAGE experimental video, because that's the one where I go through all the explanation about the lenses, the little distortion there is, how that little distortion actually doesn't affect this, and in fact with the lower horizon view actually helps evidence that this curve. By all means, have a look at the uncut one.
I'd love to. I was trying to find it before this discussion that we're obviously having, but I never managed to find it. I ended up looking at some other videos. But I'd love to have a look through the uncut footage of from start to finish and all the stuff that you've showed. It would be wrong of me to argue against what you're saying at the moment, but all I would say is that I've watched lots and lots, hours upon hours upon hours. I've watched like 3 hours uncut footage of high altitude balloons that have went up to 114,000 feet.
Yeah, I went to 127,000 feet.
Yeah, that's a good height. I was about to say, or 130,000 feet thereabouts. So all these footage all they've ever done for me is showed that the horizon has been perfectly flat, but it's distorted with the image that they have shown, which is normally 98% fisheye. So, as I say, I want to have a good look through your footage. I don't want to come to any conclusions on that. I think people can have a look at the footage. Is that available to everybody to watch the uncut?
Yes, it's available on.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's available. Yeah. It's available on YouTube right now. That is showing. This is from the uncut. Hopefully a bit slower. So this is showing the view of MAGE. Now you can see that horizon is moving up and down, left to right as it's swinging around. What it is not doing, it is not flexing, becoming convex and concave. This is with the MAGE camera.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've actually seen that before. And sometimes the reason for that is they've actually got it's like a balancer on it, and it doesn't tip beneath to cause the concavity that it would normally show. I'm not saying you've got that on your balloon. I'm not saying
I definitely haven't, because if I go back a bit, I find a bit where it's there you go, it's moving around more quickly and so on, but that's not going convex and concave.
Yeah, yours is going down, but it's not going. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Whereas if you look at the wide camera at the top, that's changing. That's flat.
Yeah, that's totally changing back and
that's
forward.
what you normally see, and that's what I didn't want to have for MAGE.
Yeah.
So the wide camera at the top doesn't prove anything either way. But the main camera has not got that wide camera distortion.
Yeah.
Listen, I think it is actually a great shame that you weren't able to find.
Yeah, I wanted to view it. I did want to view it, and as I say,
that's probably my bad. I should have got that to you. So I'm sorry. I should have handed that to you, Break. So I do.
Oh, it's okay. I was going to ask you, Craig, again for it, but I'd watched the end of your video, and I knew you were in a lot of pain. You were talking about how you felt you were a bit under the weather, so I didn't want to trouble you for that as well. You know, that's the reason.
Can I just say that what you just said to Mr. Sensible about, you can't deny what's in front of you, and you need to look at it further. That, I think, could class as the most honest thing a flat earther has ever said on my channel. So I want to commend you for that.
So do I. Well, I thought exactly the same. I didn't get a chance to say Break, but absolutely. I mean, I've had people just try to hand wave it away, say, "Oh, it's fake," or it's CGI, or it's wide angle, whatever. Oh, there was one guy who even said that's not curved. And I appreciate you may look at it afterwards and come up with some reason that you feel does debunk it. But that is an honest position to take right now, saying, well, it looks curved, but I need to look at it more. I do respect
at the end of the day, I'm here for truth. Listen, I'm not gonna take a look at something for 2 minutes and say that's a load of crap. I prefer to look into the video, look at the uncut versions, look at all the stuff, the background to it. That's me. If other people want to say, "Oh, that's crap, that's fake," or that's anything else, then that's up to them if they want to do that. But I'm here for the truth, not for to just try and debunk something foolishly without looking at the proper evidence that's there.
Well, thank you. I have actually put a link both in Zoom. You should be able to see it on the chat on the side of Zoom. That's the link linked directly to the experimental video. That's the one I'd really recommend you watch. But if you go to my channel, look at my playlists. There's MAGE Rage, which is all the flat earthers who have tried to debunk it, and there's the MAGE playlist, and that's the one you really want to look at to learn about it.
Okay.
Here, MAGE. There she is.
Oh yeah.
And
should be in a museum.
Actually, if I lose the background video a second, you can see. You've got these spring-loaded strings, so they are straight. They have to be straight. If I twang them, they go back to straight. And that's it. I know I've got my green screen on, but there's the hole for the camera that was aimed across these strings. There we go.
Basically, if those strings look straight, then anything in between those strings will be straight, because that's the least part that's the part
I get what you're saying. Yeah, distortion. Definitely. I'm going to have an extensive look at that footage. I'm sorry that I can't really discuss that footage because I haven't looked through it. I apologise for that, because I know that was one of the things you wanted to talk about. I
know that Craig mentions MAGE quite frequently in the streams, for which I'm grateful. And every time I'm watching a stream, then you suddenly pop up with that, Craig. I think, oh, that's me, and I really like that. And then when you sort of said, oh yeah, I'd like to find out about that or talk about that. And Craig invited me. I was more than happy to, and I'd be more than happy for us to redo this. If you, hey, maybe you'll watch it all and you'll say, do you know what? He's right. That shows curve, and that'd be brilliant.
Maybe after he's watched it, he could come back onto your channel and have a discussion about it.
That would be good. I'll have a look through the stuff, and we can rearrange that at some point. Do you want to move on to some other questions I've got for you?
Yeah. No. So this is unprepared for.
Okay, yeah.
Going in hard. Loving it.
Yeah. You know how like people have done the sticks at like 100 kilometers away. I think there was a guy on the bike. He put a little stick in an orange, and then obviously he travelled 100 kilometers away on his bike, and he put a little stick in that orange, and the shadows were different. So it was like.
Is it an equivalent of Eratosthenes' experiment?
Yeah, he was redoing that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But would it not be? Is this not an easy one? I don't know if you've ever considered this, right? So there's lots of places in the world that are they actually say are flat. You know, you've got like 10 or 15 places that are. You would be fooled into thinking that the Earth is flat. It's not a bowl.
Do you mean somewhere like some salt flats or something?
Yeah, salt flats. Yeah. There's
they're flat. That doesn't mean they're not curved.
Yeah, but the point I'm making, right, is all you need to do. Let me ask you a question if you think this would work, because we've got lots of people debating over the Earth being a globe, the Earth being flat. So if you take a drone and you take it up above the floor, in this flat area that's 100 kilometers flat, we're like, I think it's Salardion. There's meant to be like 1 foot of elevation over 100 kilometers, square kilometers. So if you take a drone up there, and surely if the Earth is a bowl, if you take it up to 30 foot, put a gyroscope on it, an altimeter, keep that drone, video it the whole way, travel 100 kilometers in one direction. For example,
sorry, you mean fly the drone 100 kilometers?
Fly the drone. Yeah, just by keeping it level, not as in keeping its distance from the floor. Just keep that level. But we can have drop or we can have elevation. Correct, if you know what I mean.
Well, if you're
flying, you can have valleys or hills. Okay.
Yes, but let's assume that this flat is at sea level, so we've got 0 as the height. Okay, so it's 0 feet.
You don't even need to know that. All you need to know is that your area has the ability of not blocking that drone from traveling in the same direction at a level. So you start your drone off, let's say, in a flat area. Take it. Have your distance, right, 100 kilometers in one direction, and then so if you keep that drone from tilting, okay, just keep it level, as in like spirit level. If you take that drone for a distance of 30 miles, then that drone should be, according to the globe, it should then be 630 foot above the floor.
No.
How?
Because you're flying it level.
No, that's level to its own self.
Yes.
Not to the ground.
But, okay, you've got your drone at point 0. It's level. Okay, it's not tilted up, not tilted down. You move it forward, level changes for that drone. It's always it's flying perpendicular to the vertical. You've got the gravity is pulling it straight down. It's staying level to gravity. So if you've got your sorry, I'm going to move the mic a bit. If you've got the force of gravity pointing straight down, here's your drone. Here's your drone flying level. If you move a distance of 30 miles, vertical has changed, and it's staying perpendicular to vertical. So it'd be like that. That's fine. It's always going to be level. That is level around a sphere.
So how is it then that planes take off from the runway? They fly up to the altitude of, say, 25,000 feet. They level off, and then they just go in a straight line. And then they just come down in altitude and land on the runway at the other place, their destination. Why would they remain perpendicular to a ball?
Because flight, I don't know all the ins and outs, but you've got the force of gravity pulling them down, you've got lifting them up, you've got thrust pushing them forward, you've got friction slowing them down. It's all balanced. It's operating in the amount of thrust and the angles you've got of the control surfaces at a certain height. If that air pressure stays the same, the plane will stay the same height. If you eased off the engine, it would slowly drop. If you gave it more thrust, it would lift. So you've got a balance.
Right. So
and you're maintaining an altitude constantly. For instance, you've got your autopilot and you're at your 25,000 feet, and your autopilot says stay at 25,000 feet. If it starts to drop, it will give it a bit more thrust or whatever. It will constantly fight to keep it exactly that altitude, and that altitude is a distance above the surface of the Earth. And as the Earth curves, it stays with it.
So hold on 2 seconds. I don't know if you'll be able to see this.
I can see a circle.
Can you see the circle with a little plane?
Yes, I can.
Right, okay. So all we would be doing in that with the drone is keeping the plane. So you're raising, so there's your flat ground where you begin. So you raise it up 30 foot.
Yep.
You fly that in a straight line. Let's say we've been flying for an hour. Yep. That should start to be dipping away. That should surely, if you're keeping just a straight line, that drone should be leaving the curve. Because
if let's say it started at 30 feet and you've gone a distance that the drop means it would be at 40 feet, the only way it could have gone up to 40 feet is if you'd given it more lift, if you'd given it more thrust. It's always going to hover at the same, well, hover. It's flying at the same height. You've got an amount of thrust, which is enough to hold it at 30 feet. You move forward a bit, you're still only giving it enough thrust to hold it at that 30 feet. Yeah, but remember,
you're only following the level that you're out with anything else. All you're doing is following the level that's on your drone. So if that drone were to tip forward, which would make it go down, it's going to keep it straight. So you're flying in a straight line. So eventually over 100 kilometers, that has got to be you've got to be higher above the ground, surely.
No.
Why not?
Because you're maintaining the same altitude. To get a higher altitude, to get a greater altitude, you must have provided more force to lift you away from the surface further.
You see, that just doesn't seem to make any sense, because at the end of the day, the only thing you're following is the straight line. So you've raised to 30 foot or 100 feet. You're going to forget the ground now. You're going to fly level.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and are you saying that gravity affects that then?
Well, gravity, it's a balance. You've got gravity pulling it down, and you've got the thrust and the lift keeping it up in a certain density of atmosphere. If you go higher, the air is that bit thinner, so it would have to work harder to gain more height. What you're saying is just naturally pointing it in one direction, it will keep going up forever, basically, because never mind flying your example of flying level for 100 miles, start by tilting it at 45 degrees. Do you think that will just fly straight up and off into the sky hundreds of thousands of feet? It won't, because it can't do it, because there's not enough atmosphere at those heights, and that it wouldn't be able to generate enough thrust. Because there's less and less air.
I get what you're saying, but to me,
actually, when you think about it, with an aircraft, they're pressurized, aren't they? So why don't they fly at 250,000 feet? The reason they don't, and the reason why it's so hard for things like Branson's Virgin Galactic flight thing, is there's next to no atmosphere up there. You need an awful lot of thrust, rocket type thrust, to lift up to those sort of heights. There's barely anything there. There's only a fraction of a percentage of the atmosphere. So propellers wouldn't work. So a propeller, a drone could only fly up to a certain height before the air's too thin for it to lift any more.
I think that's a possibility. I would agree with you on that.
And okay, but
yeah,
so
would
take
agree
it back
with
a step. Let's say to hover at 30 feet, you're running your drone at 50% thrust. Okay, you move forward your 100 miles, and you're saying it would be so much higher. The air is thinner. 50% thrust wouldn't be enough to keep it up at that height. The 50% thrust will always only keep it at that 30 feet or whatever it was.
I get what
We're
you're
talking
saying. I get what you're
figures
saying.
figures pulled out of our ass, but the general
Yeah, I get what you're saying with that. But to me, at the end of the day, if a thing is flying, let's just say that is sort of curved there. Let's just curve that a bit. So if the Earth is this bowl and you've raised, because the ground is flat where you are, if you've raised that, I still believe that if you have a level on your drone, that eventually if you keep flying level, that according to the globe, there should
now
be
stop where you are. Stop where you are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Looking between your drone and the surface of your Earth, is that drone level?
The drone's
you're thinking of level. You're thinking of
Yeah.
level compared to the point you started. You
Yeah.
have to, that drone would be level compared to the ground it's over.
Yeah, but still, surely, because at the end of the day, the curve calculator, the Earth curve calculator, surely, not putting into it anything like refraction, surely, if we live on a bowl, right, there's got to be at some point curvature, right? So my point is simply that if you keep a drone level to the ground that it took off from, eventually that will curve and drop away, but your drone should be higher and higher and higher and higher.
Okay, you're talking about an equivalent of that force the line experiment. Have you heard of that?
No.
Right.
No.
I've forgotten the guy's name. Flatty McFlatface is regurgitated an old idea. If you had an area of land that was roughly flat and you basically built a fence, and between each post you fastened a bar, and every bar you use a spirit level to get it level. If the Earth is curved, it would follow the curve. Yeah.
Right, I get you.
Right, and then you have a second bar that's built above it, and then every bar you're not using spirit levels. You're just making sure it continues absolutely straight. So over a distance, it will be higher above the ground.
Should be a drop. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be higher above the ground. I mean, there's all sorts of technical difficulties with that. The theory behind it is fine, but you never do it, not without sort of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds. But that's not the same as the drone. So yes, if you could keep that drone, you've got your initial start position, you've got it flying level, hovering level. If you could keep it moving exactly straight ahead compared to your start position, yes, you would be higher. Unfortunately, that's geometry. Yeah.
That's what I wanted. That's my main point. I wanted,
but it wouldn't happen unless, as you travelled on, you apply more and more thrust to give you the lift.
I get what you're saying with the thrust, right? I get you. I get you. Okay, and no, I understand exactly what you're saying. But thank you for saying that. Yes, it should eventually become higher.
Well, a straight line from your original horizontal position at 30 feet would peel away from the surface of the Earth. But the idea of a drone or a plane doing that is nonsensical. Otherwise, they wouldn't bother with rockets like they got. You could stick wings on it and fly a plane, just keep straight, and you'd be up in space. It won't happen because the air's getting thinner, and so you won't get as much lift. And every aircraft has its maximum ceiling height. It's not just about the pressurization, because you could easily pressurize a plane. You could construct a vehicle so that it would withstand a vacuum. That's fine. But a plane couldn't fly at those heights. It would run out of air because it's supported by the air. So when the air is thinner, there's not enough air to support it. So it can only get so high.
I would agree with you on that. I've never looked into ratios of atmosphere or anything. I know there are ratios exist.
Well,
I would definitely agree with you that as the
MAGE was
go up, there's less air.
MAGE was only at 127,000 feet, and it had 0.3% of the atmosphere. That is vacuum. There was
Well,
nothing.
I don't know the tolls and stuff like that. Again, as you
Well,
pointed,
it was less than 2 Tor.
Yeah.
At ground level, you got 760. At Mage's height, it was less than 2. What we consider to be space, it's 10 to the negative 17 Tor. Basically, an awful lot of zeros, but still just slightly, very, very slightly positive.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of arguments over how can you have the vacuum of space next to a pressurized gas
Well, I'm
system.
glad you said that. You've seen that Mage graph. Let me just see if I can pull the graph back up if I find the right tab. Yep, 1 second. You can see the Mage graph there. So starting from the left, that's when we were at ground level. It was 100,000 Tor. Doesn't matter what you could think of, you could have that as 14.7 psi, 100,000 pascals, beg your pardon, or 760 Tor. Any unit measurement you want. But as we go higher, the pressure goes down and down and down and down. You see it then slows down. It's still dropping very, very slowly. And if I'd carried on, that line would carry on, approaching zero until you're out in space, and it's only just above zero. So there is not ground level 100,000 next to the near zero of space. No, at any point on that graph, if I chose that point there, the point just before, and sorry, I don't know if my cursor is showing. Is my cursor showing to you? I don't think it is. Okay. Just there where my finger is. If I move that way a bit,
Yeah.
it's just slightly higher, only very, very slightly, or the other way, slightly lower. You think when you look at the weather report and they say, oh, it's a high pressure system or a low pressure system, it's 1,000 millibars here and it's 1,010 millibars there. Those differences are enough to cause winds and storms. That is air pressure or atmospheric pressure moving from an area of high to an area of low. This is... There's next to no difference. To all intents and purposes, if you're at one height and you move up a meter, it's exactly the same pressure. You move up another meter, it's exactly the same pressure as it was the meter before. But in fact, it isn't. It's just such a minuscule drop between those two. It's not enough to make it rush one way or the other. And there's something that's preventing it. Gravity, which is holding it down or trying to hold it down. But in fact, it doesn't succeed entirely. We lose, I think it's somewhere in the region of 70 tons of atmosphere. I'm not sure if that's a day or a year, actually. It might be a day. But we lose tons of atmosphere to space. But the majority of it is
yeah, that was one of the questions. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. See the ISS, okay? So you've got they always... like they're giving you these live images.
Yeah.
So, and they're always facing the cameras back down to Earth. Yet you have a couple of astronauts on board the ISS. They're asked the question, can you see the stars? Can you see the things of the universe, the planets and blah, blah, blah. And they say, oh yeah, you can see all these things. Why is it we never have a camera pointed towards space on the ISS? What do you think about that?
If I was, or you were sat in the ISS now,
Yeah.
if you looked out the window or a window towards, you had anything like the sun, the moon, or the Earth in view, you're not going to see the stars. It's like, I mean, I've got my studio lights there. Everything else behind it looks black, but it's still there. I just can't see it because of the brightness of the studio lights. Now, if you were sat looking out a window on the other side, away from the Earth, and you haven't got the sun in view and you haven't got the moon in view, and you've got the lights switched off in the room, because otherwise it's like sat in your living room. If you've got the lights on, you're not going to see faint stars. You won't see the stars, will you? In fact, even if you just walk outside, you're not going to see the stars until your eyes adjust, because they're very faint. They'll appear brighter in space because you haven't got the atmosphere dulling them. But I don't see it's a problem. If you took a photo of me, if I stood in front of a window with a sun shining behind me and you took a photo, what are you going to see? You'll see my shadow, the outline shadow of me, but you're not going to see my beautiful face because of the brightness. It's all to do with exposure levels. Now, I'm not a photographer, but you must know that effect. If you take a photo towards the sun, everything appears, you know, you don't get the detail. You turn around, so you've got the sun behind you, everything's lit up lovely.
Yeah,
so the levels of light matter crucially.
Yeah, so, well, I've took pictures where I've been the owner of a P900, okay? So I've took lots of pictures.
The Flat Earther's camera of choice.
Yeah, it's value for money. It's a great camera. I would advise it to anyone, yeah. And probably more functionality on it than the P1000. Don't waste the money, guys. Get the P900, far better.
I will say,
do you think
it might be a good camera. I know it's got a very strong zoom, but it's not an astronomical camera.
No, it's not an astronomical camera. No, not at all. But the point I'm making is right. So you've got the two astronauts who are asked the question, "What can you see?" When you're up there in the ISS and the light, yeah, you can see the Milky Way, everything. You can see all these things. I just don't get why it is that they've never got any footage at all of the wonderful universe that they say surrounds us from an ideal position.
They have. It's called Hubble Space Telescope. No, absolutely. It's the right tool for the job. I mean, I could go up there with my Instamatic camera, snap a picture, and if I manage to get anything, all I'm going to get is the faintest little dots of stars. You want to see it, you want to use the proper tool. They're not there to try and photograph the stars and the planets.
Well, to show us, because all we ever get is, and I'll come back to the Hubble, all we ever get is images of them playing about with spanners or a couple of things dangling about that's attached.
You talk about when they're doing the spacewalks, when they're doing repairs, they're doing repairs and stuff.
Yeah,
they're doing important jobs. You think of all the people, the ground staff that have to be, you know, all the controllers and so on, all the cost of all the transmissions and all that. And those guys are risking their lives. Actually, just by being in the ISS, it's a risk. But go outside in a spacesuit, it's a much greater. They are risking their lives. They're not going to frack about taking photos of stars with cameras that at best are going to show nothing. You take your camera and go out and take a photograph of a field of stars. You're not going to see anything unless you're using a telescope and a camera that's connected to it properly. But with your ordinary iPhone, will you even see the stars? Probably not. And if you can, it's not going to be anything impressive. So why would they do that at great cost and at risk, a certain level of risk, just to try and keep yourself happy?
What I would say is, right, we have amateur astronomers on Earth that are taking amazing photographs, amazing video footage of some star clusters, of distant so-called galaxies. Basically, they're all lights in the sky because they can't verify that any of those lights in the sky either are actually solid matter. As in something like we've got.
Well, you do know they can.
Not the amateur. Not the amateur.
Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know if amateur astronomers can go as far as spectroscopy, so that you can look at the Fraunhofer lines. I think they're called the lines you get when you got the spectrum of light. You get the black absorption lines, so you can work out what materials are in those stars.
But the point I'm making there is, right, so you've got amateur astronomers that are taking all these wonderful pictures all the time. They'll pick up Saturn, they'll pick up Jupiter. They'll get some of these pictures right, but they're very fuzzy in image. So we then have the ISS that proclaims itself at 200 miles above,
50,
200 miles above the Earth's surface, which is 400 kilometers thereabouts. And all we ever see is the curvature of the Earth. It's like, why can't we see turn the cameras round and show us Saturn in close detail.
Because they're not they're not telescopes.
But
those cameras
here's
are designed to and their settings as well are set so that they can image the Earth, the brightness of Earth. But then they've got all their additional equipment for I don't know, seeing in other wavelengths and whatever else they do up there. I mean, they're doing experiments in microgravity on the station, and they've got cameras and equipment pointing to the Earth. It's not there to look at the greater universe. We do that with tools for the job, like Hubble or telescopes on the ground.
Yeah, but Discover satellite is took a time lapse apparently of the Earth 1 million miles away. It's like in an orbit apparently 1 million miles away from Earth. Discover satellite.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So it is a telescope, but it's 1 million miles away. And crazily enough, I looked through some of Discover satellite's imagery the other day. It's showing Jupiter the same as it's seen from Earth. It's like, but this thing's 1 million miles away. It's away, further away from Earth. There's, it's got this zero atmosphere. It's in the vacuum of space. There's no dense clouds. There's no dense atmosphere. And then it's showing the same image of Jupiter that an amateur astronomer from Earth is showing. It's like, but it can take a time lapse of the moon crossing over the Earth and the Earth crossing over the moon transiting. Where's all these phenomenal images? And if the ISS is 200 miles up with zero atmosphere, it's in the vacuum of space, apparently.
Well, it is vacuum of space, but there is still some atmosphere. There's some atmosphere beyond the moon, just minuscule amounts.
But and then you've got the ISS. The point I'm making is you've got the ISS astronauts saying they can see all these things, but why are they never showing us? It's like
I tell you what. If you go out tonight, maybe if you're lucky, depending on where it is, you might see Mars. You might see Jupiter. What do you see? You just see a bright.
You just see a blur. It's just like
they're only 200 miles closer. They'll see that same dot, maybe a little bit brighter. That's all they're going to see. So there's no difference from them seeing Jupiter, with their naked eyes, than down here.
Yeah. Did you know that? Did you know that a guy called up NASA headquarters and he spoke to the chief guy in charge of Hubble, and he said to the guy, "Did you know that all the images that you've got Hubble showing are the same as Sofia, stratospheric observatory, that is just basically a Boeing 747 that has camera lenses that they change on a regular basis and take images at night of the stars and what is up there. Excuse me. All these images are just the same. And the guy from Hubble didn't even know that the images that were taken from a Boeing 747 that is within the Earth's atmosphere were the same as Hubble. So why the billions of dollars for Hubble? And now you've got the James Webb that I don't think's been launched yet, has it? It's about to be
October.
launched.
Yeah, but the photos you could take from places like that are not going to. I mean, this isn't the best Hubble. That's a Hubble deep field image. That you're not going to get images like that from the aircraft. These deep field images, they stare at what is apparently a blank bit of space for days, weeks, months to capture as many photons as they can. And over time, there's enough photons captured to be able to image those F dot screen in that image. Even those tiny ones are galaxies. You're not going to see that from a moving aircraft, even with a good telescope. Hubble telescope is massive. Hubble telescope has no atmosphere in the way, or none to speak of, to cause the rippling effect that you can see, like you see with people taking P900 pictures of the moon, and you can see the ripples of the atmosphere. I forgot what the proper word is, but the distortions. There is no comparison. I don't know much about that Sofia thing. I have heard of it. and I'm sure they've imaged lots of things, but in no way, shape, or form can it compete with what Hubble can produce.
Well, what I would say to the audience is basically have a look at Sofia Stratospheric Observatory, and you will see that Sofia has taken images that are identical to Hubble's. So, and Hubble is meant to be billions of dollars.
Would you mind if I just piped in on that?
Yeah,
so I know about Sofia. I was looking into this the other day.
Yep.
Sofia concentrates on infrared light and far field images using infrared light, whereas Hubble uses a lot more ultraviolet. Ultraviolet can't get through the atmosphere, so Hubble can see things that Sofia can't. They're different cameras meant for different jobs. Sofia is used to look at heat and everything from certain points of the galaxy, whereas Hubble is used ultraviolet light for deep field observations. So they're very different bits of kit meant for different jobs.
Okay, thanks for that, Craig. Just as I say, though, have a look at the pictures that are actually taken. I know they might be different imaging types or how they take their images, but it's funny that Sofia is alongside Hubble in its images, although they're completely different.
Well, if both were taking a picture of the Andromeda Galaxy, they're both going to see the same thing. But with Hubble, you're going to see it in a great deal of detail. And I've just found one of these Sofia pictures, which are not... oh, it's not going to show it me now. Oh, that's a shame. But as Craig's saying, a lot of it's in different wavelengths. So you'll see different gases and so on. Different, again, it's different tool for a different job.
Yeah,
but believe me, actually, when you think about it, if NASA's in for pocketing lots of money, but want to show some sort of results, then why don't they just stick up a whole bunch of Sophias, forget Hubble, and keep the extra cash?
Well, you see, when you look into it, I'll answer that question. What I think is the reason for that is because every year they are launching so-called telescopes, satellites, probes. All of these things cost billions and billions of dollars. Now we've got private organisations who are cashing in on this. We've got Elon Musk. He is now part of the NASA crew. We've got we've got Richard Branson, who's now wanting to cash in on space ventures. We've got another American guy that is competing with Richard Branson. I can't quite remember his name.
Jeff Bezos.
But
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean,
our Lord and
honest,
Master, Jeff Bezos, obviously.
I mean, if I had the chance for a flight in any of those, I would grab it like a shot. However, I actually think that like the Virgin Galactic, it's joyriders, joy trips for very, very wealthy people. I don't think that's a good use. Now, a good use of the money and the pollution it's caused. However, on the flip side of that, they will learn lots of things technically, which can then be applied at other times, at later dates for future missions.
Well, I think it was somebody that pointed out recently, they're actually redoing what they did 40, 50 years ago. I mean, Richard Branson is not really, it's the same tech. I mean, here we went to the moon, right, 1969. So then we've not been back to the moon, a manned mission, in 50 or 60 years thereabouts. So they keep sending these unmanned rovers. There's something wrong with that. That's just to me.
Well, they went to the moon between 69 and I think 72. Yeah. They did everything they needed to do. It cost a bloody lot of money, and it was at massive risk to the lives of those astronauts. There was if you take a trip somewhere, there's a chance of the plane crashing. It's a minuscule chance. I don't know the exact figures, but I think you're talking something in the region of 20, 25, 30% chance of dying. It was extremely dangerous. Those were incredibly brave people, absolute heroes, and they did what they needed to do. And as far as we were concerned then, that was it for the moon. We'd learnt what we needed to do. But now they're thinking about this, using it as a staging area, perhaps being able to produce fuel on the moon to Lunar Gateway, which will be an orbiting station to fuel trips further afield. So suddenly there's more interest in the moon. And you haven't said it, thankfully, but all that business where flat earthers have said, oh, we haven't got the technology. No, I happen to like 57 Chevrolet Bel Airs. You can't buy one. Well, if I said, well, I want to buy one, make one, they can't make one because the tooling, the equipment, the men with the experience just aren't there anymore. No doubt you could handcraft one at immense cost. But then when it all comes down to it, why would you bother? You'd have a modern car with good braking systems and cruise control and all the things that weren't available in 1957. And for the missions they're looking to do now, they don't need to do exactly what they did then. Anything if they need a lunar lander, they wouldn't build one exactly like the old one. They won't dust off the plans, dig out the tooling, and just churn out another one. They'll design a new modern one, lighter, better, able to cope with whatever experiments that they want to do now. Maybe with a greater crew or to enable a longer stay, all sorts of things. There's no point in rebuilding something from 50 years ago. So if you were going to build a car, you would not build a 57 Chevy, lovely though they are, you'd build a nice Mercedes E-Class or something.
That's the point I'm making now. At the end of the day, they've not been back to the moon in a manned mission in, 60 years, thereabouts. So it's like, I get what you're saying, they've advanced in technology. But I mean, the President of the United States, I mentioned this to Craig the last time, when it was Obama and Obama was addressing NASA, he said NASA hasn't advanced in 50 years. So that's a strange
It depends what you mean by advanced.
Technology. He was saying your technology has not advanced in 50 years.
Well, that's absolute rubbish because back
station.
then there weren't all the communication satellites and so on. Now we can talk to people all around the world. We've got an ISS, we've got a space station that's been up there for years. Back then, they launched, went to the moon, came back, and I forget, is it 10 days? And they only just made it. That was the best they could do then. It was
and we've got it's like if what they did way back 60 years ago, and they did it quite easily, apparently, because they did it on the technology of less than the iPhone, if that be true. I've heard that statement made.
Yeah, no, it is true, but it only needed to do basic calculations. It didn't need to be able to do emojis and play movies and stuff like that. All it needed to do is take these input values of pitch, yaw, roll, and so on, with and calculate an orbit or whatever based on that. It just needed what nowadays is a simple calculator. Then that was the cutting-edge technology.
Yeah, so, but the whole point of it is they're talking about obviously populating the moon, making a base on the moon, and then going from there to Mars, which is obviously 50 million miles away. So all of this is sort of, the point I'm trying to make is it's like there's billions of dollars. It's like NASA gets 50 million a day. So, and $1 billion is 1,000 million. So 1 billion equals $1,000 million. They get $19,000 million every year, and they don't seem to be getting any further forward because all they're doing is doing trial missions unmanned back to the place they went 60 years ago. That makes no sense to me.
Well, haven't you seen the rovers they've dropped on Mars?
Yeah, but that's the whole point. It's like they're not even over the first hurdle on the moon, and yet they're apparently sending rovers to Mars. That makes no sense.
You can do more than one thing at once. Those are totally different missions, but also those Martian rovers are looking for water. They're looking for the potential of the remains of life. Indications that there was ever life on Mars. They're doing geology experiments. Those rovers aren't there to enable someone to live there. There'll be different equipment, different skills, different knowledge will be needed to have people survive there, because they're going to have to produce air. They're going to have to be able to recycle, everything. They're going to have to be able to grow food. They're going to have to cope with the radiation. They're going to have to cope with the immense cold, and they're going to have to live there for years. That's a massive step forward. They are working towards it, but it's not. You can't. Well, let's go to Mars, and a couple of years later go. It's something that takes decades. And as for the cost, the amount of money NASA gets, they've got an awful lot of employees to pay. They've got an awful lot of buildings to heat, light, and no doubt pay taxes on. They've got to build equipment. I mean, this equipment, look, the rockets and so on, I know that they're subcontracting a lot out. They still cost billions. These things, you can't just go and buy some sheet metal and hammer it into shape and whatever. Every weld has to be x-rayed and all that sort of thing, because people's lives will depend on it, and with no chance of rescue. Everything is horrendously expensive.
Do you think we should be, this is a personal question, do you think that the way the world is at the moment, right, that we will eventually destroy the Earth and have to move from this area away to some distant planet, and that's why space exploration is needed?
I think space exploration absolutely is needed, because we should not have all our eggs in one basket. Never mind global warming. I hate the phrase climate control. Climate change, never mind that destroying and perhaps putting us at risk. We could get hit by a killer asteroid that would wipe us out. That could happen tomorrow. Okay, so I think for the human race, we should populate elsewhere. The stars, that's going to be. I can't even see how that's going to be possible. But at Mars, yeah, that will be possible. It'd be very expensive. It might be a miserable existence. Who knows?
See, how do you take? I spoke to Craig, and Craig did say something about it doesn't matter about food, but the truth of it is you can't go to Mars and live on Mars without food. So how do you get all that food to Mars, 50 million miles away?
You grow it.
You can grow food. You can use hydroponics. If you've got the chemicals and water, you can grow plants. But that's part of the experiments they're doing on the ISS, growing plants in microgravity and so on. Because if you can't grow plants there for the for on the journey and in a sealed environment like the ISS is, you don't want to find that out when you're in Mars, however many millions of miles away, with not many buses back. You're going to have to know that it will work. And it's all learning.
So the point I'm making is, right, so let's say you need to send a spaceship, okay? So, and let's say you've got a moon base, they build a moon base. I mean, are we talking, how many years are we talking here? Are we talking 10, 20, 30 years before a moon base is built?
I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. I certainly hope it's within my lifetime. I think it will be for man back to the moon. I desperately want to see that, and I'm just praying. I don't like to say that, but I'm just praying that I will see man land on Mars, even if it's a mission like the moonshot, where they're there for just a few days or a couple of weeks and then come back again. I would love to see that.
See, Mr. Sensible, my way of thinking is, right, that this is all pie in the sky. It's like we're going nowhere. It's like they're keeping us, well, just to finish my point, they're keeping us distracted in this area we call Earth, right? So we have a perimeter. Isn't it strange that on this Earth we have a North Pole and a South Pole, but no one is allowed to go to the North Pole or the South Pole
I'd have to say,
unless you have permission. So
do you know why? Do you know why?
Well, I've heard many reasons why, but none of them seem to be a proper explanation as to why.
Well, it's a nice, easy explanation. The money. If you went to the South Pole and got into trouble, the cost of rescuing you is phenomenal. So you have to be able to demonstrate that you've got enough insurance and so on. It's not a walk in the park. It's a blood dangerous place. Lots of people have died there. I thought you were going to go down the lines of the Antarctic Treaty, because I was going to say, have you read it? Because it's actually, I did a video, it's about 4 pages of A4, and it's very straightforward, very readable. Basically, you can't do military stuff, you can't do mineral exploration. I know that they're looking for things like that, and hopefully it won't change, but they're protecting that environment. That's what the mainstay of the Antarctic Treaty. But also, would we want the US or Russia setting up bases there, forward bases for weapons launches elsewhere? No, because then it'll just encourage an arms race. So hey, let's keep everything even. Nobody exploits it. Nobody uses it for military purposes, just scientific purposes. That's all it is.
Well, that's the thing, right? I hear about all this as Antarctica's dangerous, but anytime you look on stuff about Antarctica, they're stripping their clothes off, running about, jumping into the freezing cold water. Yeah, you have a look at it. It's down there
in Antarctica.
No, I'm not saying. I've seen people do that, in other cold places.
That's how dangerous it is. You've got a little penguin that's flapping its wings towards a guy, and he falls over. It looks super dangerous. I'm not talking about the wildlife. I mean, North Pole with the Arctic with the polar bears. Yeah, that's dangerous. I don't think the penguins are going to do you much harm. No, they're not going to do you much harm in the south. But just did you see
the Top Gear episode where they went to the North Pole? Because there's
preparation. I've not seen that. Seen that.
So Jeremy Clarkson and James May went in a vehicle, because of course they're trying to drive
James
there.
May's the one who went up and seen the curvature of the Earth.
Well, James May and Clarkson went in a vehicle, and Richard Hammond went on a dog sled, and it was a race. But for training, I've forgotten the guy. Was it Ranulph Fiennes? Is it Ranulph Fiennes? Is that his name? I'm not sure. An explorer who's done the Arctic and stuff like that. He gave them some basic training. He made them jump through a hole cut in ice into water, so that they would feel what it's like daggers that stabbing straight in you. They had to get out in seconds, roll in the snow, and then get straight back in to strip off, and they would be dead within a couple minutes.
But that's the same in the North Sea. If you fall in the North Sea, you've got like 3 minutes to get out that water.
Exactly. So do you think that people should just be able to go wandering around the Arctic or Antarctic without being licensed or properly prepared and showing that they've got insurance for the horrendous costs of rescue if it's needed?
No, I get what you're saying. There would need to be proper measures taken to explore those areas. Definitely.
And you can go to. I'm not so sure about the Arctic actually, but the Antarctic you can go on tourist expeditions there. Yes, you're not going to be wandering around the innards of Antarctica, not because it's secret or hidden, but there's nothing there.
So what do you think creates, so why do you think all the needles on the compasses point to this area in the north? What do you think's there?
Well, it's following the Earth's magnetic fields.
So why only the north? Why not in the south? Why not anywhere else?
You could. The Earth has 2 magnetic poles, north and south. When you've got the needle, we label one as north and the other as south, but you could think of either end pointing to whichever pole. It makes no odds. So you've got the red end pointing north, but you could think it's the non-red end pointing south.
I get what you're saying there, yeah, but I think the way the compass needle is fully designed, it's to follow obviously that's why it points north, because there's something magnetic in the north.
No, it's not that it's something magnetic. It's the magnetic field of the Earth. You must have done that thing when you were a kid with a piece of paper with iron filings and move a magnet underneath it, and you can see all the filings start to follow the
I've
magnetic
seen it before.
field.
I've never done it myself now.
And the compass is just like one of those iron filings.
So what do you think? Because flat earthers believe that the North Pole is in the centre of the landmass, and they're asking the question of, what is this? What is in the middle of our landmass that causes the needle to point there.
Yeah, when you say landmass, when you say landmass, I presume you mean in the centre of the flat Earth, because there is no land there. The North Pole
they
is
say
sea.
they say that the Arctic Circle is just a floating iceberg. Yeah, basically.
It is. Yeah, that's right.
Isn't it funny as well, right, that all the old maps show the Arctic Circle with ice covering it, and like the new Google Maps now that they want to push the climate change are showing as if it's completely dissolved. But
it's not completely dissolved. I mean, it does ebb and flow throughout the year. The amount of ice cover grows and shrinks, and the concern, and that's why they think there's a possibility sometime soon of this Northwest Passage. But the concern is eventually most or all of it will melt, and then it would just be ocean. The problem with that is you've got that's an awful lot of water. That's floating water. The ice is floating on the sea, so it's not going to raise the sea levels in the north from the North Pole. But that's an awful lot of fresh water that's being added to the Earth's ocean systems. The other problem, of course, is Antarctica. The ice, apart from the shells, is on land. So when that melts, that will raise sea levels, because currently it's not in the sea.
Yeah, the point I'm making though is Google Earth shows like the Arctic Circle as having zero ice at the present time. It's not a live image of the Earth. No,
it's not a live image of the Earth.
No. And when last, I don't know, that's at the moment, I think Google Earth is it's not a finished program. They're playing about with it at the moment, because I went on there the other day and looked just yesterday, and it was showing different islands dotted about the Arctic Circle, but zero ice. Now, all the pictures that from all these areas round about show masses of ice, but Google Earth is showing nothing.
Well,
and the old maps,
I don't know the images you mean, but as I said, the ice does grow and retreat throughout the year. So if they're photographs, it could be at points when those islands are uncovered. But also they can use radar to detect what's underneath. I mean, like Antarctica, that they know what the land mass underneath looks like, where it's mountains and valleys and so on. But the whole lot is actually under ice. So you could do an image of the land under Antarctica. You could do an image of the land under Antarctica and in effect strip off the ice. But that's just an image, it's a visualization.
So when James May went there, did they go to the North Pole, the actual North Pole?
Yes.
So they claim they've been to the North Pole.
Yes.
Were they on ice or were they on water?
On ice that's floating on water. Exactly.
But the point I'm making is, why is Google Earth showing just water when it's actually a blanket of ice?
Well, it doesn't matter, does it? The ice is changing all the time. It is an ocean.
Yeah, but
if the North Sea froze, do you think that they should just show pictures of it as just ice? It's still the North Sea.
There's always a blanket of ice in the North Pole. There's always something.
Currently, yes, and hopefully
disappearing pretty quick.
So
yeah. But with climate change, the point I'm trying to make is they're trying to tell us that the hotter climates are melting the ice, whereas the North Pole they used to have it, but they've changed it. NASA used to show the North Pole as it grew, Antarctica receded in ice, and then the other way around, which explains, like, you know how summer,
because when it's summer in the north,
though, that's what the point I'm making. Do you know what, like our summer, the sun, I followed the sun for a full year, and the sun was setting nearly north at about 12 o'clock at night, midnight, to 1 in the morning. It was setting further north. Then obviously, to me, that only makes sense because the sun is circling the North Pole, and in our summer in the United Kingdom and those places in the Northern Hemisphere, the sun circles a small circle. Then as it becomes winter, it gets wider and it goes out down to the Southern Hemisphere.
Right, well,
that only makes sense on a flat Earth to me.
Only seems to make sense in the heads of flat earthers, because you'd have to explain several things. One, how does the sun stay up there without falling down? If it's going round the North Pole, what is it actually going round? If you imagine like being on a string swinging round, because in effect we, the Earth, are going round the sun as though we're on a string. In this case, you're saying the sun is traveling in circles, so it must be going around something. Why doesn't it fly off? And if it is in some way attracted to the pole, so it's going round it, why over several months can it suddenly work its way further away and then change direction and work its way back again?
Because it's all part of the engineered system we live in. You see.
What do you mean, engineered system? We're getting a... Yeah, go on, explain that.
When I say engineered system, right, it's like to design a watch, you need to engineer that watch. You need to fit it with all the little cogs, the dials, the needles. You need to set the time, put a battery in it. That's exactly what we live in. We live in an engineered system, and an enclosed system. That's what
Whoa.
Yeah,
if I can stop you there.
On.
When you say enclosed, what do you mean? Are you talking about some sort of... I'm not trying to be rude, but are you talking about some sort of dome or container?
Yeah, I believe we're in a container, no question about it.
Okay, so what about things like stars?
Stars are simply lights that are there to entertain us while we're here on Earth. It's just a mystery. Stars are a mystery to us. So.
Well, not really. Not really. We can monitor stars over weeks, months and years as their brightness changes. Where they're occulted by planets. We can see stars moving. Barnard's star. I've got a great picture somewhere of Barnard's star, and you can see over the years, I don't think I've got it to hand actually, I'm afraid. Over the years, you can see where Barnard's star has moved against the other stars. With the nearest stars, you can use parallax. Over a period of a year, when we're on one side of the sun, you take a photo of the star. When we're on the other side of the sun, you take a photo of the star. It appears to move. You know that thing, the parallax when you opening and closing different eyes. In fact, I do want to show you this then.
Sorry,
1 second. Here you go.
Yeah,
here you go. Oh, come on. Why isn't it showing that?
Can we wrap up this point then, and then I'm going to move on to any questions from the audience, okay?
Okay. There you go. That's actually, that one's not Barnard's star. That's the same star taken from Earth and a satellite. I'm in the way, so I can't see which one it is. I can probably just move me. No, it's not there. So you can see the star moving left to right. That's parallax. So that's not just a light sort of stuck to a dome or something. I think that's that point. I'm quite happy to go ahead, Craig, if you are.
Yeah, I would just like to say that the constellations have not changed over a period of at least hundreds of years, if not.
Yeah, over hundreds of years, that's true.
Yeah.
But over thousands, it's not true. They're all changing very, very slowly.
Well, that's why I was careful to say hundreds of years, because our history gets a little bit mixed when we go back thousands of years. There seems to be lots of people saying what happened 1 billion years ago, 10 billion years.
Well, we can see the movements of the stars. We can see the speed they're moving, the directions they're moving. And in our lifetime, very few stars will look at all different. As I said, that Barnard's star, you can see several photos of it spread over about 10 years, and you can see how it's moved, because it's the star with the greatest proper movement across the sky.
Yeah, and what I would say as well is that, not to get us into another point, just to finish the same point, if we look up at the sky and we see things rotating round clockwise, which we do, and then we see like a mirror image, the southern hemisphere.
It's not mirror though, is it?
Well,
because it's going round another circle.
They meet into each other. Yeah, they meet into each other. But the point is, that does not say that the Earth is moving. That just says that the sky above us is moving. That's all it shows.
Okay, and I'd like to just counter that. An LP record, a vinyl record, it's got a hole in the middle, hasn't it? And the record rotates around that hole. If you put another hole somewhere else on that record, you could rotate around that, but you couldn't rotate around both holes at the same time.
But if what you do is you take a flat record and don't move it and stick a bowl above it with all these lights and rotate them, that explains what we're living in. That's
no,
it.
because you've got that light and other little lights rotating around it. Yeah, that's fine, looking north. But you look south, it's rotating around a second point.
And
That's
if
it. You cannot have 2 points of rotation on a flat shape.
And if you look through a glass bowl dish, that's exactly what it shows.
Yeah, only we don't live in a solid glass hemisphere.
It's a shame none of us guys can get up there to verify exactly what the ceiling is, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Mage went up there and it didn't see anything, and it got
but it never touched the ceiling.
Isn't there a flat earther who calls himself Flat Earth Millionaire? I'm sure he could book a flight on one of Richard Branson or Jeff Bezos' penis rockets. You know.
Yeah, don't forget, Mr. Sensible. I'll have a look at the footage. Thanks for showing us that, and Craig, thanks for having us.
My pleasure. And Break, I have put it in the side chat of Zoom.
Yeah, brilliant.
So please have a look at it,
I'll have a look at it.
Reach out to me and we'll organise something.
I'll get back to you with my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. And thanks. I've enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
Are you going to hang around for the Super Chats break? Or?
Yeah, I'll hang around, if you want me to.
Me too.
Absolutely. I think there's a couple of questions for you. So just want to say thank you to everyone who supported me tonight on the PayPal and on the YouTube thing. On with Super Chats. Yeah, YouTube are being stupid, taking a whole bunch of my money at the moment. It's quite annoying. But thank you very much. I'm going to read out the PayPal donations first, but I will not read your full names because I don't want to dox you. Tim M for $2 says, anti-Simon Dan is sucking my will to live. Yeah, Break, I have had, since the debate we had the other day, probably 100 comments saying that you look like Simon Dan's cousin or brother.
Yes.
Yeah. Simon Dan is my evil twin.
Are you not the Simon Dan evil twin? Right. No. Seriously, guys, put a picture of Break and Simon Dan next to each other. They could be brothers, like Liam and Noel Gallagher, I swear. Peter Flemberg for... sorry, I just doxed you. Peter F for 100 sex says, thank you for standing up against Bumpy's anti... trans BS the other day. Here's some sex. Thank you for the sex. Yes, this channel is an ally. I will not have any anti-LGBTQIA here. Although I wish they'd find an easier name. Dominic A for $5 says, simple reminder that today, JM Truth, the film mailer, blocked me on Twitter. Stupidity is not right. Yeah. And why he said film mailer there is because in JM Truth's Twitter bio, he literally says, I'm a film mailer instead of filmmaker. I'm not joking. I'm deadly serious. Go and look at JM Truth TV on Twitter and look at his Twitter bio. And this is a guy that is supposed to be a filmmaker. According to Twitter, he's a film mailer. Sven A for 453 says, Super Chat, I hope your pain is relieved as soon as possible. I would love the pain to be relieved. Thank you for your thoughts. The only way to relieve the pain is to take the leg. So that's something that we're working on at the moment. Patrick B for 941 says, any chance of sending me your email, please, Craig? Yes, I did send that to you. And then we got Maniqua O for £23. Thank you. It's been pretty tame, lol. Yeah, this definitely wasn't a dumpster fire. It was a decent conversation. There was a few times I wanted to scream, but I felt like Mr. Sensible was handling it pretty well, so I didn't. And then we got Daniel S, who says, Break, can you please stop smoking cigarettes? Not even Flerfs deserve lung cancer. I mean, Nathan does, but not for being a Flerf.
I would agree. Yeah, I've been trying to stop for 20 years now. It's not happened. Still trying.
Try these things, pal. Honestly.
I've tried that, tried the patches, and still failed, yeah.
I know how hard it is. I really, really do.
My wife smoked for a long time, and then one day she tried quitting a few times, and one day she's just like, fuck it. And she used Champix patches, which made her like basically hate smoking. You know, when she smoked with the Champix on, it was like an unpleasant experience, and then boom, done. And she hasn't smoked since. Very proud of her.
Cold turkey's the best way, I think.
Tim M for 344 says, a palindrome is a word that looks the same at either end. It's the word equivalent of your mum. Okay, thank you for that. We've got Gareth K from 941 says, love your stuff, keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Jonathan F for £30, thank you, says, to help with your medicinal expenses, how effective they are. Yes, that medicine isn't cheap. Thank you from the Matt Powell unofficial. Then we got Tim T for 1378. Thank you very much. No message. Marek Zeonc for £1.77, who says, now you'll have to try and read this Polish word. I'm going to get this so wrong. Pozdrowienia z Polski. I mean, that sounded Polish to me.
It did.
Right? Sorry, Marek, if I got that wrong. It took me long enough to learn how to say your name, so I think I can be forgiven there. Paul G for £10 says, Justin Weber, not much hope it helps. Well, thank you very much. It means a lot. Jonas E for $7.94 says, I always send money via PayPal. Can you please hack a website for me? According to JM Truth and Negative Exponents, I am an expert hacker and hacked JM Truth's website. Because I know how to fucking do that.
Did you sneak in and correct his spelling mistakes?
Oh, someone needs to, for God's sakes. I can barely write HTML script for my After Effects expressions. There's no way I could hack a website. Especially when Negative Exponents told me it was a DDoS, whatever that is, Distributed Denial of Service attack. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Brainy Beaver says you can buy them, apparently, but... did you do... A Shrimp's Tail, 344 says, hope you two figures it out. Shit, much love, Craig. Thanks for all the entertainment. Well, thank you very much. Rob for 813 says, hope this helps get through the month. Thank you very much. That's all the PayPal. Let me just check. No more came in. Give me one sec. Yeah, that's everything on PayPal. I really do appreciate it, guys. It means the world. Let me read the YouTube super chats now. We've got Caucasian Sensation for $5 says, just got here. Did I miss any stupid? FTFE may have a wrench to help out in the chat. Yes, I gave you one. MC Toon and Schrodinger's cat, keeping it criminal, will vouch for me. Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much for your support. Benny Beeman, $2 says, tell Breaking Down the Wall of Lies, it's okay to change your point of view.
That's not going to happen right now.
Well, you haven't watched my Mage video yet, have you?
Go and analyse the Mage video. But again, the way you acted about that was the most honest I've seen a flat earther react to it. Like Mr. Sensible said, there's been a lot of...
Do you know what? If you watch it, and when you've considered it, you still think that it doesn't evidence the curve of the Earth, I would have respect for you because you actually didn't just blurt out, deny it up front. You'd have gone to watch it and then came to that conclusion. I hope you come to a different conclusion, but I respect you for at least considering it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think honesty at the end of the day should be top of everyone's list.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
To just turn around and say that something's not true when you haven't watched it or viewed it, that would be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Retro Staff for €2 says, super dump fights for cylindrical Earth now. I mean, there's concave Earthers, so I wouldn't be surprised. Lord Luminous Pooh for $2 says, anti-Simon Dan. Yeah, this is Simon Dan's evil twin. Jeffrey Hollenbeck, $20 says, gravity. Have you heard of gravity? Gravity. Yeah, the answer to your plane thing is basically gravity and air pressure.
Fictitious.
It
doesn't mean it doesn't affect you. You get in one of those spinning fairground rides, you're stuck to the wall, aren't you?
We never got on
force
to that.
pushing you out.
We never got onto that one. I wanted to talk to you about the spinning wall. We'll leave that for another time.
Okay, yeah, like I say, you can go onto Mr. Sensible's channel and have a chat with him. I'd definitely watch that. Caucasian Sensation for $5 says, there's hope for our Scottish guest. He demonstrates the closest to intellectual honesty since Ranty. Can you two cuss at each other, please? I'm bored. Do you just want to swear at each other for a little bit? You know, call each other retards and stuff?
No. that would be retrograde.
Yeah. Tim Tully for $5 says, a plane also won't reach escape velocity. Yeah, it couldn't go into space. And then Tim became a new member. Thank you very much. Area 85 Restorations for $5 says, how does Breaking Down the Wall of Lies explain the recent Blue Origin manned launch? What do you think about the most expensive dick measuring contest in history that's going on at the moment?
Well, all I would say is Blue Origin was the Jeff Bezos, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think him and Elon Musk are just sort of trying to outdo each other. And Richard Branson's in there as well. I think I covered a bit of that. I don't trust any of them organisations whatsoever. I think they're just
I'm
in
not
it for the
surprised.
cash.
They are in it for the cash.
Yeah,
Of course
that's
they are.
kind of what they do.
Yeah.
That's why I use Amazon. I did find it quite funny that the 88-year-old astronaut trainee lady that went up with Richard Branson and gave the whole thing 1.5 stars out of 5. She was like, "Yeah, I didn't go high enough." Uncle Dan 58 for $4.99. Thank you. General E Shady $2 says type 1 in chat to facepalm, 2 to face desk. Yeah, it should be known by now that my streams come with a mandatory facepalm warning. Quitty's the Sprinkler $2 says I don't have PayPal, but hashtag pay FTFE and hail Sagan. Toby $5 says he keeps saying the point I'm making, but has not made any point yet. He only evades all points made by Mr. Sensible. What an absolute obnoxious guy. So Toby, I don't think Break's been too bad. There's a lot of and ahhing, but he's got a lot of questions. But I think we need to give Break the props for displaying a bit of intellectual honesty, because I think even Break would admit, looking at a lot of other flat earthers, that's not something that is normally demonstrated. And I think in the past couple of debates that Break has been on this channel, he has displayed some intellectual honesty and willing to listen to things that are said. So, I'm giving props to you, Break.
Craig, I don't think we can get to the proper conclusions by arguing it out and calling each other names. And I'll be honest, we have lost the energy to get involved in that sort of stuff. I just want to get out. I want to have a discussion with people. If it comes to the name calling and the horrible stuff, it's not worth it. It really ain't.
No, you're right. It's not. Okay, just a couple more. We've got Sleepy Dan for $5 says, if this system is so well engineered for us, then why is most of the surface covered in uninhabitable and undrinkable salt water? And I'll add to that, fucking Australia.
Everything wants to kill you there.
Yeah, everything in Australia wants to kill you. It doesn't seem very well engineered for humans. Let's look at me, for instance. If I eat a nut, which is one of the most common types of foods, I die. It's not very well engineered for me. Rocky Bixby for $5 says, does the dome have a lid like a pickle jar that just randomly opens to allow meteors through, Break?
Well, it's funny, right? If you know how we had these comets and stuff, if you put a black bucket, right, totally black bucket, put your iPhone in there to record, shove a hole in the bucket and move that bucket round, there you've got your comet.
What?
Yep.
No, you've got a spot of light you can see, but a
That's
comet,
right, and that's all.
A comet has perhaps two tails, a gaseous and a dust tail. We pass through the tails of comets. I forget which one it is, and that gives us our meteor showers each year.
If you look at the pictures of the comet, video of the comet, all it is a light trail. That's all it is.
Apart from the fact we've landed on one.
Well, so they say.
They do indeed. We got Johnny Marr for £2 says, Break, why is there a circular shadow on the moon?
I've got a wonderful little representation of what you can create with two different lights at different angles, and they show all different shadows, planets, they show everything. We can do that at ground level on the Earth. We can certainly recreate it in the sky. Doesn't mean anything that the moon is a solid object. And just furthermore, look at my video about the moon being a see-through object, the last solar eclipse we had. Have a look at that video. It's on my channel. It's very interesting. You can see straight through the moon.
In which case, you haven't got an eclipse. You'd just see the sun through it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, it was actually a solar eclipse. It was the moon object passing in between the Earth and the sun. That's why when
you say the moon object, you mean the moon.
Yeah.
Which it can't do on a flat Earth.
People say it's a solid object. Obviously, you could see straight through it. It was.
Well, in which case you'd see the sun and you wouldn't have an eclipse. You'd also wouldn't have the moon occulting stars.
Have a look at that video, guys. Tell me what you think.
All right, last super chat we got. STE for £2 says, "Good debate, guys. Decent Flerf, not being a knob." Yeah. Right. that is it for tonight, guys. I want to give a massive thank you to everyone that super chatted and donated via PayPal. Your support allows me to continue doing what I love to do on YouTube. So thank you beyond words. I literally can't express enough how much your support means to me. I know not everyone's able to support me financially. If you want to help the channel, the best way to do that is to share what I do on Facebook and Twitter. I get a large portion of my views coming from social media. So if you really do want to help, then the best way is to share what I do, post it on all your friends, families, and enemies' walls as well. That usually helps. Please check out Mr. Sensible. The link to his channel is in the description. I'll also put a link to Breaking Down the Wall Live channel in the description.
Can I just say, Craig,
yes.
I mean, obviously I have my regular videos coming out, but I've got a bit of a special coming out, hopefully on Friday. Visited Bletchley Park. So it's not my usual sort of stuff. I'm doing a thing about Enigma and Alan Turing's bomb machine, and I'm rather proud of it. So that'll be out on Friday.
Can't wait. Yeah, guys, definitely check out Mr. Sensible. He does regular videos, like he says, debunking the flat earthers, streams every now and then, and he's got a special coming out soon. Break, thank you very much for taking the time once again. I actually don't mind the conversations with you. We've had an interesting history, haven't we?
Yes, we have, and we're quite close by, but I'm glad we can sort of sort some of our differences out. We're not going to agree on everything that is 100%, because you believe what you believe, and I know I'm right. Okay.
I'll tell you what, though, Break, I could quite happily go to a pub and sit down and have a pint with you. I would have no issue with that. I agree. At all.
Not Jay and Truth.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was nice meeting you, Mr. Sensible.
You too.
Yeah. Thank you, and thanks, Craig, for setting that up. I've got is it Q Jump on Wednesday?
T Jump on Wednesday. Yes, I'm looking forward to that. He's got some interesting stuff for you. So yeah, come back on Wednesday for a debate between Break and T Jump, and I'll have a new episode of Flerfs Are Idiots out this week as well. Thank you everyone for watching. Remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat earth.
And the earth is flat.
Fight the flat.